Hello everyone, Kristina Werner here. Welcome to another video for assignmentsofstamp.com. Today I'm going to be using three brand new products. The first one is the Daisy Oval Frame. It's a set of dies that you can use all together to create a frame with flowers and leaves, and I'm going to be using every single piece in that die set today. I'm going to be using a greeting from the To the Happy Couple stamp set. Lots of really great greetings in that stamp set. And then for a stencil, I'm going to be using the Dash and Dot stencil. So I'm first going to start out with stamping my greeting. I'm using some clear embossing ink to stamp To the Happy Couple onto some white cardstock. This is Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock. And I'm coating that stamped greeting with gilded embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. It's a nice gold shade. I hit that with my heat tool until the powder was smooth and melted, and then I'm going to cut it out using the coordinating dies. So I've got the coordinating die for the greeting from the To the Happy Couple die set, and then I did a bunch of other die cutting. Like I said, I used every single die in that Daisy oval frame set. I also cut out the large oval frame using masking paper, and I'm going to use the center area later when I start to do my ink blending. For the centers of the flowers, I used matte gold cardstock, but for everything else, it was out of just plain white cardstock, and I'm going to be stacking things for the frame to make it look more substantial. At this point, I set the die cuts aside, and I'm going to work on the card base itself. I have a folded note card. This is made out of some 110-pound solar white cardstock, and I put that down onto a waffle flower grip mat. I'm using the color Cheeky from Assignments of Stamp, and I want to have a really light application of this color pretty evenly over the entire front of this card. So I realized that I needed to kind of get rid of some of the ink on the brush right after I loaded up, and so I did that off to the side and then brought it over to my card base, and that let me get a pretty even coverage of this color while it is still very light. Now I'm going to use that center oval that I cut out of masking paper. So I've got one of the frames just to get placement. I'm placing that on the front of my card. And then I'm going to take that oval out of masking paper and I'm going to puzzle piece that into the interior of the Daisy oval frame. And this is just going to preserve that center area of the frame while I use my stencil on top. I love the pattern of the stencil, and I wanted to have that pattern on the majority of the card, but I wanted the center area of the oval frame to remain just a solid shade so that it wouldn't compete with the greeting. So I've masked off that center oval, and now I'm going to use the Dash and Dot stencil to add a pattern. So used on its own, I think this is a really great pattern. It's really kind of generic. It's not anything specific to any style. So you can really just make whatever you want using this stencil. So first I stenciled it on just like normal. I did kind of a light application of that same ink color. So it's just intensifying the color underneath. And you can see it's a pretty kind of plain pattern. I then offset the stencil just a little bit, and I'm going to stencil it again. I'm going to ink blend over it again, but as you can see, the stencil stops short of the whole card front, so I did the bottom half of the card, and then I picked up my stencil, moved it, and lined it back up, and then I did the top half, and that made it so that I could extend that pattern over the entire front of my card. So then I peeled up the stencil, and you can see there's that double pattern shift. It looks really neat. When I removed that oval, you can see that center area has remained plain. So now I'm going to use this grip mat to hold my die cuts while I add color to them. For the two smaller flowers, they're going to be the same shade. I'm still using that same cheeky color. And one is going to be very pale, and the other is going to be a little bit more intense so that I can have two shades of the same color. For the larger flower, I'm switching to the color Blush, which in the trio of ink shades that Simon offers, this is the color that is the next darkest. So it's going to look really nice up next to all of the ink blending that I've done with the color Cheeky. For the leaves, I'm using the color Artichoke, and I tried to blend these so that there was a little bit more color concentrated on one end of each leaf. And after I had those ink blended, then I brought over the gold flower centers. So I cut out 2 of the large centers. The other one will go directly onto the white frame. And then I have 2 of the small plain centers that go onto these smaller flowers. And I think that sets off the flowers. I'm going to set these aside. I'm just putting them into a little dish so I don't lose them. And then I cleaned off my grip mat. I'm now going to ink blend the small thin scalloped frame, and I'm using that same darker shade. This is the color Blush. So I'm just ink blending that on until I have a nice solid application. And then I needed to stack all of my die cuts. So this was a little bit time consuming, but I think it's completely worth it for the more thick, substantial look. So I had 4 of the oval frames, these daisy frames that I stacked. And then I stacked 4 of the small scallop frame, with the top one being the one that I colored. And if yours doesn't match up quite right, just flip the oval like I did here, and it will match up. Like I said before, I'm taking the second large gold flower center and adhering that directly onto the white frame. So now I'm going to put these onto my card itself. So I'm putting some dots of glue on the back of that large white frame, and I'm just lining it up over that center area. You can see how that works, where I've got the outer area has the pattern and then the center is still plain. I then adhered my small scalloped frame right in the center. Just really makes that whole frame really pop. And then I started assembling my little cluster of flowers at the bottom of the frame. I wanted the large flower kind of off to the right, and then the 2 smaller flowers on the left. And the way I assembled this is I got the flowers in place, and then I kind of slipped the leaves under each one of these flowers so that they would look like they're fanning out from the center of the flowers. And I moved these around quite a bit, kind of trying to get them into the right position. And I added 1 small little leaf right here, and then there is my entire cluster of flowers and leaves. My greeting was meant to go just in the center, so I added some small foam squares to the back of my greeting and then directly onto the center of that oval frame. I think this is a really great card design because it's not specific to any couple in particular. So this could go for a lot of different weddings or occasions. I think it's a pretty generic card, and I love the tone on tone with those little pops of green. So thanks so much for joining me today. Everything I've used for this card is listed down below in the video description in the supplies. And thanks so much for watching. I will see you in another video very soon.
I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.